Okay, so we have Catalina Bates from Germany, Konstanz University, and yeah, your trainer reviewer is Professor Rasa Balachkaite. You were concerned about pronunciation of her last name. It's Balachkaite, and I will not read the title because you have some modifications.
Hello everyone. Before I let my paper speak for itself, just a short note on myself in order that you understand the vantage point from which this project has been tackled. I'm an academic scholar, a PhD fellow in the English department at the University of Konstanz, and I'll have a first-hand experience of communism. Witnessed the revolution of 1989, which is considered to be one of the most violent demise of communism from the Eastern Bloc. I have earned degrees and completed research in Romania, Germany, USA and Australia, and my academic interests that also are reflected in this project are identity, memory and trauma studies, transmigration and transnationality. The current paper is an excerpt from the bigger project titled Iron Curtain, Velvet Bridges, Post-Communist Aesthetic Agency and Romanian Women's Life Writing in the Global Diaspora. And I'll get on with it. Dissident Romanian women's life writing, stemming from their clash with the pre-1989 communist regime, is a current and vivid phenomenon, traceable across 3 continents, Europe, Australia and America, and conceivable as a direct consequence of the existence of the Iron Curtain and the ensuing forced migration to the West. It is a vibrant current involving literary, artistic and theoretical productions by formerly oppressed women, writers, academics and artists of Romanian origin, now settled outside Romania. Their works range from art installations, autobiographic fiction or autofiction, if we were to use a term dubbed by Serge Dubrovsky in '77, memoirs, journals, plays, and literary or dramatic criticism, drama criticism. Essentially, they are creative and testimonial evaluations of a particular type of transnationalism, which entails mnemonic transfers of experience between East and West. Although post-communist Southeast European women's writing has been generically looked at recently in a number of monographic and essayistic works, the particular case of exclusively Romanian diasporic self-writing and artistic self-representation by immigrant women who endured, witnessed, and wrote about communist persecution under dictator Nicolae Ceausescu has not been adequately addressed, if at all, by scholars in the field. To date, and to the best of my knowledge, there are only isolated, separate studies on women authors of Romanian origin, living abroad, but absolutely no synthetic analysis of the communalities and differences of their experience and its impact on the quality of their immigrant life in the Romanian diaspora around the globe. So to remedy this gap in literature, I propose through this project an exclusive study of Romanian women's self-writing and artistic self-expression beyond Romania's borders. I look at cultural representations of traumatized identities within radically different multicultural and political environments in Europe and worldwide. In this project, I intend to stress the necessity to focus on these autofictional female destinies as intrinsically transnational and to problematize local specificities, for instance Romanianness or Europeanness, as paramount to both translocal hybridities like Romanian/German, Romanian/Swedish, Swiss/Australian/American, and to the global valorization of personal or collective memory of post-totalitarian trauma. So my present critical enterprise centers on expatriate women's identities for which the transnational was not a matter of choice, with the notable exception of novelist Carmen Francesca Banchu, who relocated to Germany of her free will in 1990. I mainly draw on narratives of migration and diasporic life by female writers and artists of Romanian origin who are to various degrees scarred by life under Ceausescu's dictatorship and are producing their work in Berlin, Germany. In Berlin, Germany, for instance, the winner of Nobel Prize Literature, Herta Müller, and Carmen Francesca Banchu, I mentioned earlier. Then in Switzerland, Carmen Gugan. In Sweden, Gabriela Melinescu and Alina Stoinescu. In the United States, Dominica Rădulescu, playwright. Saviana Stănescu, also playwright. Nina Cassian, poet. And Australia, Irina Grigorescu-Pana. Since these authors do not fit neatly into a single national literary tradition, but rather display transnational affiliations, their perspective, I argue, is particularly valuable for understanding the global networks of contemporary art and literature as intrinsically navigational, to quote Stephen Klingman's term, and inhabiting the very space of intercrossing. A typical example to support this is the fact that most writers listed above adopt the language of their host countries. So they write in German or in English or in Swedish as sole instrument of expression while maintaining the topic of totalitarian Romania at the core of their cross-cultural topics fields. By highlighting the change towards the global, my study intervenes in current scholarship on global shifts of interest from Eurocentrism to transnational cohesion through cultural, political, social, and media technical interrelations among immigrants. This dynamic is sustained by the expatriate women authors under scrutiny here, and who have gradually and continuously stepped out of the long isolation and reached out towards a dialogue with fellow women writers, artists worldwide, for instance, the post-colonial writers. Presented as first-hand experience, life in former communist Romania, as it appears in the selected works, is illustrative of a particularly vicious mechanism of political oppression, surveillance and state control, active for almost half a century in post-World War II Romania. By foregrounding Romanian women's artistic productions stemming from their clash with an abusive regime, this study claims that their contribution to the extant historiography of communism is a valuable reminder not only of the perils of absolutism, but also of an intellectual aggression against an already discriminated group in Romania. With these broad objectives in mind, I ask the following questions. How do these contemporary women authors understand and contribute to the notion of Europeanness as current inhabitants of European countries or other continents in the context, and that's important, of Romania's previous isolationism under communism? How does the trauma of post-communism inflect these women's ongoing transnational and transcultural experience in their adoptive countries in as far as the aesthetic representation of the memory of trauma goes? Are constant fear and suspicion as typical manifestations of post-communist distress, in any way impeding integration and assimilation? And how is the identity transfer and development stimulated or discouraged by the new environment in the countries of immigration? Moreover, does the gendering of post-communist trauma lead to gendered transcultural expressions of assimilation, and could that possibly contribute to a sense of communion, empathy, and healing among the female victims of Romanian descent across the globe? Can one apply Michael Rothberg's concept of multi-directional memory to such texts written by Romanian Australians, for instance, whose histories resonate with other histories of post-colonial discrimination, for instance that of the marginalized stories of the mistreated Aborigines of Australia. As Ekaterina Pătrașcu pointed out, and I quote, equally important is comparing the modalities in which the tension between trauma as irrepresentable event and trauma as event that can be confronted and narrated are reflected at the level of the literatures, unquote. The case of Irina Codreanu's memorialistic work, so the Romanian-Australian author under scrutiny here, based on her Melbourne experience, Melbourne Sundays, Translations into English as a Second Life, 1998, corroborated by her criticism of exile in the Thomas complex, Exile and Eros in Australian literature, invites such symmetries between the post-colonial and post-communist experience of trauma. And these symmetries are, on the one hand, hegemonic discourse, totalitarian discourse, apartheid, concentration camp, center, periphery, history, histories, ideological discourse, and private discourse, unquote. Beyond that, both discourses point to an interspatiality and intertemporality, commonly signaled by identitarian ambiguity. That is to say, liminality, as observed by Arno van Gennep in 1960, Victor Turner in 1969, and Homi Bhabha in 1994, is about ambiguous contact zones between two cultures and distinct epochs of the same culture. And consequently, it applies to Eastern European and post-communist trauma literature as well. This ambiguity manifests through fragmentariness, hybridity, and double language, so typical of underground and subversive literature. The world beyond the borders of former communist Romania is